Okay, brother. We are actually, man, we're right in South Minneapolis right now, and we are in the neighborhood. I'm sitting next to a brother that is a part of the McRae legacy. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewing audience, please?
I'm Dr. Charles Sims, a dentist in the community, and we started McRae All-Stars years ago, even before there was a AAU in Minnesota. We used to play a lot of tournaments. A lot of tournaments, they wouldn't let us in because we was that good, okay? And your dad, Ralph, taught the kids a great lesson. He taught the kids to play ball. It wasn't just a run and shoot thing. Okay, he taught college ball how to play college-like type ball. He taught it was a strategy to the game, and rather than run and shoot. And that used to drive some teams mad when they get black teams that were disciplined. Okay, that used to drive teams crazy, and that made us that much better. Okay. We had the talent as well as the strategy.
Okay, well, let's take it back from the beginning. So back then, this all started from this particular neighborhood in South Minneapolis, a community that's definitely changed over the years. When do you remember your first memory of being a part of the whole McRae All-Stars movement?
Oh, don't get me lying. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. I can remember a trip or two, okay?
Okay.
But I remember us going to a lot of tournaments. Almost every weekend we going to some tournament. But I remember that we traveled in 15 passenger vans one time. We all went to Denver. We went to Denver, Colorado first.
That was the Salvation Army tournament, right?
Red Shield.
Red Shield.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had my friend Rick Upchurch come over then.
Okay.
Rick Upchurch was playing for the Denver Broncos at the time.
Okay.
And he came over to talk to the kids.
Okay.
And we stayed there at Red Shield. Then we went over the hills, Denver, after we played in that tournament. I think we lost that game to Red Shield. Then we beat them in California, though.
You know, you're okay. There were two teams, so we had. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had two age groups.
Yeah.
And my father was a coach for the older group, which would have been Derek and all them.
Yes.
And then you were the coach for my age group.
Yes.
Right. And that particular, when the McRae started splitting in age groups, that's when we kind of moved to do more traveling across the country.
Yeah.
So at that particular time, how did you look at that yourself, being a former college athlete, grounded in the community, but also giving back to the community as a coach now? How did you look at that time period for you and the travels at that time?
At that time, there was no competition for us in the state of Minnesota. And so we had to travel out of state in order to get competition even. And that's what we did. We traveled out of state because there was a lot of tournaments they wouldn't let us in the state of Minnesota because we were that good. They always, just like Tiger Woods at the time, they were playing for second place all the time, and they didn't want that. So a lot of tournaments they wouldn't let us in.
So this would have been, let's talk a little bit about the climate for black youth and black coaches and this black team at that time. Were there different dynamics definitely around race that played an issue around all that?
Oh, most definitely. I feel most definitely. I feel that way, and because most teams were afraid, not really afraid, but they didn't want to play black teams with all that had talent as well as, like I said, the strategy. And Ralph used to stand up and he would direct players to hold the ball sometimes, and the players would have to come out and get them. Once they came out and had to guard some of the players, we could go around them then.
And this was a time, this wasn't only a black team, but there were black coaches coaching these teams, which could have been even more of a threat for that time period. Like when you talk about like the AAU at that time, there wasn't really a lot of activity around AAU basketball at this point in time.
There was no AAU in Minnesota until I think people from Medina took it over and started getting sponsorship. They had the money, and there was no AAU. There was one player that we took with us. Two players we took with Dave Peterson was
Dave Peterson was with the older group. Dave Peterson's younger brother.
Yes,
he played with our squad, right?
Yeah. Jim Peterson's younger brother.
Yes, that's right.
He played with our squad. Yep. And then with the older group was Mark Scogan, a white boy from
Wisconsin, and his family owned the chain of Scogan grocery stores.
IGA stores.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because normally let me ask you about this at that point in time. Normally you have like teams that are coached by white folks, you know, that pick up talented black players.
Yes.
So this was actually in reverse.
Especially nowadays, that's what happens.
Okay.
A lot of talented black players are picked up by white coaches.
Right, or AAU teams.
Yes. But back then,
it was the black coaches that picked up a few, maybe a couple talented white folks.
Yes.
Now, what was the criteria for those selections? Like, was that something? Who was that led by, and was there agreement on that with both you and Ralph Crowder Sr.?
Yes, it was, but Ralph was the head coach, you know.
Okay.
So he made the decision mostly, and it was fun. It was fun, Ralph.
When you look back on that, what are some of the lessons that you feel that the young ones coming up that are very active in AAU ball in high school, or starting even younger than high school, moving on up to going to the collegiate level? What are some of the learning lessons that from all that experience? I mean, I remember when, and this was something that we talked about too, when we had practice, we even had to push the van with a hole in the middle in the wintertime with snow on the ground. I mean, man, like, what kind of learning lessons do you feel that this is of a story for the younger generation?
Now the younger generation have big time sponsors now. A lot of shoes, a lot of gear, basketball gear. But back then we didn't have that. But my thing with the younger, don't forget where you came from, where it started, and that's what I want my sons to know, where it really started.
When we talk about McRae, we definitely deal with the neighborhood first, where everything started, from South Minneapolis, and then we branched out and moved to. There were kids from the north side, the south side, and St. Paul involved. As you think about all that journey, how do you feel moving forward for potential people like you at that age, or my father at that age? Is a story like this possible today?
I don't think so, because it's such a sponsorship, and with Nike and Adidas and Under Armour and all those big big shoe companies. And I think that they won't let the status quo won't let black coaches in there now, so to speak. And now all they do is they don't teach the strategy and playing ball like we did back then. But I feel as though the younger generation got to know where it started. They got to know that.
Right, because do you feel that it was about basketball, but there were also, there was also lessons around community development, self-development, love for self, black self-determination. It was a very black-centered kind of sports group.
And we had to deal with that because we had to deal with not only kids, we had to deal with parents too.
We'll talk about that. How was it dealing with the group of parents at that time doing something totally out of the norm for that time period?
A lot of parents had to work and didn't follow the team. We had very few, to me, following, and we had to act as fathers to the kids most of the time. And I spent some days, I remember closing up my office and going checking on grades and everything at different schools that kids went to, because they were ready to kick some kids off the team, and they weren't making the grade and everything, and so and that kind of thing. We had to deal with the kids too, act as fathers, because we didn't have that much following.
Okay, so you at that time you had to almost kind of play a different role, almost as a father figure, right?
Yes.
What do you see has been from that time to now, the different challenges within that black family structure of that time compared to now? What kind of challenges do you see that are consistent or different from that time to now?
I don't see a concern for as much for the kids that are sort of on the line, on the edge. I don't see that much a concern, but we were mostly concerned with kids that was good, but was on the edge. Ralph Sr. taught more than just basketball. He took the kids that were on the edge and tried to work with them, and it just wasn't talent. A lot of the kids, you probably didn't hear. Occasionally, you would hear of some kids that going to college and everything, but all the kids didn't go to college. Some kids got in trouble. Some kids, after a while, they was in the community and they kind of fizzled out. But Ralph was far ahead of his time, and that's what I liked about it. And I see the coaches now, big time coaches now, letting the kids on the edge go by the wayside. And I think we did a better job.
What would a squad like McRae been like? Because we're talking probably about a 4 or 5 year period of time, maybe that. What would have that been like if it would have continued to this day?
I think it would have taught the kids to play in college. They play at the next level, high school, college, and that's what it did. It taught. I think McRae All-Stars could have played this year, and nowadays they could have played because they were disciplined enough to play.
There's a lot of talk about the coaches, like I said before, you and Ralph Crowder Sr., but who were the other people that might have been supportive, other than the coaches, that made everything happen, from traveling city to city to maybe even sponsoring, some uniforms or sneakers? I mean, who are some people in the community that you feel that helped make all this happen?
we went to the University of Minnesota and got their old uniforms one year. I remember I used to have a bag full of uniforms, and that it was old uniforms, but it still worked for us. And I think people like Mark Dayton, Governor Mark Dayton, he used to give money to us, and Kern's Restaurant, and we had different. I'm Penny Furniture was one of the sponsors, and we used to go around. Me and Ralph would go around and beg money.
Okay, and you talk to me a lot about anything that involves all this. You know what I'm saying? This stuff that we're looking at right now. This involves a lot of planning, a lot of conversation, a lot of preparation. What did the preparation look like? You mentioned a lot of meetings that you used to have in the mornings. Talk a little bit about that.
That's why I say your father, Ralph Sr., was ahead of his time, because everything was planned out. I had a whole list. Before he left for California, I remember him giving me a list of tournaments that were going on, and I used to follow up with that. And he was far ahead of his time. He could write. He was good at writing, putting together proposals. He was good at that, and we would sit and go over different stuff that we needed. He would put it together. Our 7th grade team, 38-2.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Sims, at that particular point in time, we talked about maybe some of the challenges, for this all-black team. These black coaches that definitely knew who they were, and these black kids that was just destroying all these people on the basketball court. There's definitely there's challenges around that you have to navigate. But to be so successful and to win and to show so much talent and potential and progress with everything that was being done, do you think the black community really supported you the way that they could have or should have?
Yeah. Some people did, but there were a lot of haters. Some people didn't really care about what we did. Okay, some people would give us their son, and some people wouldn't. Okay, some people would hold their sons back from us, and stay the hell with playing basketball. It just I want my son to work or something and make money or something, and there was a lot of that, and we had to talk some parents into letting their kids play.
But you would think though, at this time when you're taking kids on airplanes across the country or driving across the country, having these experiences that, black folks, we have money, you know what I'm saying? And for that time period, do you think, was there any disappointment with you or my father around the support that, that easily we can do for ourselves?
Yeah, because a lot of black people wanted to know, is it going to cost them anything? And we had to go out and sometimes get money to take the kids ourselves. And sometimes I spent a lot of my money from my office doing things because and paying entry fees and everything like that, because a lot of black people wouldn't spend their money on their own kids,
even when it's proven that it's working.
Yes.
So was this a kind of a sacrifice at that time? Because many people look at like programs that are successful, or businesses that are successful, or services that are successful. Was this a full-time commitment, do you think?
I couldn't make it a full-time commitment myself, but I was committed. It was a time of my life when I was getting my dental practice started and going and everything, but sometimes I went ahead and closed up the office and went for a week or so with the kids. And me and Ralph used to travel. We traveled a lot.
Okay. Big shout out to my man JB though, James Bryant.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit. How did James Bryant kind of end up becoming a part of like a chaperone? James was like a. Was that a James's official title, chaperone, or what was that?
Yeah. He was one of the assistant coaches.
Okay.
But we used to travel in vans, and his handle on the CB was Purple Rain because he was sometimes he did bodyguard work for Prince.
Right.
So we call him Purple Rain.
Okay. Is there anybody else that you want to shout out in your memory from that time era, man?
Man, just Mel Riley, and you know, God bless his soul.
Yes.